Hey class, Miss Anderson here. We are going to talk about polynomial division today. So polynomial division can be done two ways, by using long division and then synthetic division. So I will show you both and then you can decide. So first, just review of how long division works. If I wanted to do 728 divided by 3, I would first think about how does 3 fit into 7. 3 fits into 7 two times, and that would make 6. So two groups of 3 would be 6. Then I'm going to subtract that from 7, and I get 1. Then you bring the 2 down, and it makes 12. Then you ask yourself, how many times does 3 fit into 12? You would say 4. That 4 groups of 3 is 12. You subtract, you get nothing left. You bring down the 8. And then you say, how many times does 3 fit into 8? 3, 6, 9. So just twice again. That's 6. Subtract. You have 2 left over, nothing left to bring down. This is your remainder. And so you would have 2 left over out of 3, so you would have 2/3 left over. So 242 and 2/3 would be your answer. So it's probably been a while since you've done long division, and some of you might not have even learned the traditional method of long division, which makes it a little bit more challenging to do polynomial long division, but we have options here, so just hang with me. Let's try it with a polynomial. So let's do x cubed plus x. Actually, I think we have to put in a term for each spot. So we'd have to do 0x squared plus x plus 5 divided by x. And so then we would, instead of thinking like how many times does x fit into x cubed, we have to think about how many more x's do we need to make an x cubed. And so we would need x squared. And then similar to, we would need 2 3's to make the 6. We multiply these back together to get this value. We do that here. So x squared times x would be x cubed. And then we subtract and we get 0. Then we bring down our next term, which I guess is not necessary here because it's 0x squared. So I can just bring down my next x term. Then x goes into x one time. And then 1 times x is x, then you would subtract that, you get 0, and then you bring down the 5. X cannot fit into 5. So 5 is my remainder. And so I would put that similar to how I did this one, where I had remainder of 2 out of the 3. So remainder of 2 out of 3 became 2/3. This is a remainder of 5 out of x. It's going to become 5 over x. And so my final answer here is going to be x squared plus 1 plus 5 over x. And I know that looks a little bit tricky and it was a little hard to follow, but it's just like taking x cubed plus x plus 5 and dividing it all by x. And so we're just dividing each term by x, and then it's easier to see too how it simplifies to x squared, 1, and 5 over x. But applying that long division strategy. So let's try another one. We got 10x cubed plus 8x squared minus 7x minus 1 all divided by 2x. And so we have 2x fits into 10x cubed, 5x squared times. Basically, I'm trying to make 10x cubed using 2x squared because or 2x, because my next step is to multiply this back together to make this 10x cubed. And so that was my goal, was to make 10x cubed. What did I need? I needed a 5x squared. Then you subtract, you'd get 0. You bring down your next term. And then 2x would fit into this 4x times, because 2x times 4x is 8x squared. So then we take this top term times this again, and we put it there. Then we subtract, and we get 0. Bring down the next term, which would be negative 7x. Now, 2 times what would make negative 7x? We would have to have, let's see, to think about that carefully. It would have to be 7 halves. So 2 times negative 7 over 2, then the 2's would cancel and you would be left with the negative 7. So you have to think about that carefully, but we already have an x, so we just need a negative 7 halves. And then negative 7 halves times 2x would be negative 7x. And you'd subtract, so you'd get negative 7x minus negative 7x would turn that to a plus, so you'd get 0. You'd bring back down your next term and you get negative 1. Since this is a constant left and there's no more x's, then this is a remainder because I can't multiply anything to get any constant value or any number to get rid of my x. So that's my remainder. So then I'm going to have negative 1 left out of the 2x that I started with. So my final answer here is 5x squared plus 4x minus 7 halves and then minus 1 over 2x. So if you go back and you think about taking each of these terms that we started with and just dividing them each by 2x, you would see how it equals what we got. 10x cubed divided by 2x would be 5x squared. 8x squared divided by 2x would be 4x. Negative 7x divided by 2x, the x's would cancel. You'd end up with negative 7 halves. And then negative 1 divided by 2x is negative 1 over 2x. When you have a single term you're dividing by a monomial, you can just divide everything by 2x and jump right to your answer. But I wanted to practice the long division steps because when you divide by a binomial, you can't just divide each term by 2x minus 1. It doesn't quite work the same way. So in this case, you have to do it with long division. So we would do 4x squared plus 10x minus 5 divided by 2x minus 1. Then you look at this term and say, what do I have to, how many more 2x's do I need to get to here? And you would need 2 more. So you'd have to have 2x times 2x to get 4x squared. So you're going to go with 2x. But then when you do this multiplying step, you have to remember to multiply to both. So you're going to have 2x times 2x is going to be 4x squared. And then 2x times negative 1 is going to be negative 2x. And this is where if you were missing the x term, you would have had to put the 0x in. Like I had started doing this one, we ended up not needing that x squared term. But if I was doing this one, because you have to distribute to both terms, you get 2 terms here, which means you have to make sure that these line up. So if you're missing any of your terms from highest to lowest, you would put in those 0 placeholders. So if I didn't have an x term here, I would have had to put in a 0 term so that I could subtract like terms then. So then subtracting 4x squared minus 4x squared is 0. And then 10 minus negative 2 is going to be the same thing as plus positive 2, so 12x's. And then I can bring down my negative 5. Then I look back here, 2x times what would give me 12x, and that would be 6. So I'm going to put 6 up here, then multiply the 6 through to both, and it'd be 6 times 2x would be 12x, and 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. And then you're going to subtract, and 12x minus 12x is 0, and then negative 5 minus negative 6 is just like negative 5 plus positive 6. And so you get 1, and there's nothing to bring down, and 2x times nothing is 1, and so this is your remainder. So you have 2x plus 6, and then you put your remainder is positive 1 over what you started with, 2x minus 1. So final answer would be 2x plus 6 plus 1 over 2x minus 1. So we get this trinomial divided by that binomial reduces to this, which is quite the process. So practice it. There is an easier way to do it, which is using synthetic substitution, but it's called synthetic division. So synthetic substitution actually gives us the coefficients of the quotient, which means it's why we call it synthetic division sometimes. It can be used to divide a polynomial expression in the form of x minus k. Notice that this is 2x minus 1, That is not the form of x minus k. It has to be a single x minus some constant or plus or plus. So you can only divide using synthetic division if x is by itself. So that's why we still have polynomial long division, because synthetic division doesn't work all the time. Long division does. When you do synthetic division, you start by the similar process that you would start with synthetic substitution. So the drop mama steps. So if you haven't watched the video for drop mama, you're going to want to make sure you get those notes here. So in drop mama, you're plugging in what x equals. So you're dividing by x minus 1. So if x minus 1 is your factor, then you would set that equal to 0 and you would solve for x and you get x equals 1. So that's what you're going to be plugging in for x. Is you want to figure out when x equals 1. So whatever your answer is for your divisor, and then you take your coefficients and make sure that you have a spot for everyone. So 1, and then -1, and then -2, and then 8. And I went x cubed, x squared, x constant, so I'm good. And then you drop down the first one, and then you multiply. 1 times, you multiply like this, and then you put that there. So 1 times 1 is 1. Then we add -1, and 1 is 0. And we start over. Multiply. 1 times 0 is 0. -2 plus 0 is -2. Then we multiply again. So drop it down, then drop mama, multiply, add, multiply, add. 1 times -2 is -2. 8 minus 2 is 6. Since this started as a cubic equation and we divided it by an x, so we did x cubed divided by x, this would be an x squared as an answer, which then we just count down. This would be an x, this would be your constant, and then this would be your remainder. And so we could write our final answer as 1x squared. I have 0 x's minus 2 plus 6 is my remainder, and that is going to go over what I divided by. So going back to when we had 242 with a remainder of 2 out of 3, you put your remainder over what you divided by. So 6 did not fit anymore, so it's 6 out of x minus 1. So this is what we divided by. And then these are the coefficients of our divisor, and it's always 1 degree lower than what we started with. Let's do it again. So we're going to make sure if we're dividing here, we ought to be a little bit careful. We're dividing by x minus 7, so that means we're going to use when x equals 7. And then for synthetic division, though, remember, it has to be in standard form, so I have to rearrange this a little bit. Be negative x cubed would come first, then 2x squared, and then I'd have to put in a 0 for the x spot, and then a 6. So it has to be in order, and you have to have every spot from highest exponent down to your constant term. So then we're going to put in 7, and the coefficients are -1, 2, 0, 6. Drop it down, drop mama, multiply, then add, then multiply, then add, then multiply. Okay, so 7 times 30 is 210, and 7 times 5 is 35. So 7 times 35 is 245. And then 245 plus 6, or minus 6, 230, -239. Okay. So in synthetic substitution, this was our answer. In synthetic division, these are the coefficients of our new polynomial, our quotient, as you would call it. We started it as an x to the third, and we divided by an x, and so this is going to be our x squared. Then we're going to count down, so this is going to be our x, this is going to be our constant, this is going to be our remainder. So our answer is going to be -1x squared minus 5x minus 35, and then we have a negative remainder, so minus 239 over what we divided by, which was x minus 7. And that is our answer there. I'm going to do one more with synthetic division. So this 2x cubed, x squared, x12, so it's in the right order. I'm going to solve for x minus 4, so x equals 4. Keep in mind, like if you were dividing by x plus 4, then you would be plugging in x equals negative 4. So you're going to solve your factor for x before you plug it in. So it's going to be the opposite of what it looks like when you see it. So you're going to plug in positive 4. Had it been plus 4, then you would have plugged in negative 4. Then taking your coefficients, 2, negative 7, this would be negative 1, negative 12. Then drop mama, so drop it down. Then multiply, 4 times 2 is 8. Then add, negative 7 plus 8 is 1. Then start over, multiply, 4 times 1 is 4. Add, negative 1 plus 4 is 3. Then multiply, 4 times 3 is 12. Then negative 12 plus 12 is 0. And we started as a cubic, and so we're going to start as an x squared, x, and then your constant. And then this means I have no remainder. And so our answer is going to be, oh, I meant to put x squared, 2x squared plus 1x plus 3. Now, if there are no remainders, then that means that x minus 4 was a factor of the original problem. So, for example, if you did 12 and you divide it by 3 and you get 4, that means that 3 is a factor, so 3 times 4 is 12. So when you divide by a number and you get a whole and no remainder, that means that that number was a multiple of the original number. And so this means that if you were to take x minus 4, what you divided by, and you multiplied it back through, 2x squared plus x plus 3, you would get what you started with. So let's do that quick. So as a review, we'd do a 2 by 3, x minus 4, times 2x squared plus x plus 3. So x times 2x squared is 2x cubed, x times x is x squared, x times 3 is 3x. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8x squared. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 1. And then we have our like terms that are in our diagonal here. And we have a 2x cubed. Then we have a total of negative 7x squareds. We have a total of negative 1x's and then negative 1. And if you look back, that should be what we started with, except for I didn't multiply 4 times 3 correctly, so I would have got negative 12. And that is what we started with. So if you divide a polynomial by another polynomial, and you get a remainder of 0, which means you do not have a remainder, that means that what you divided by was a multiple of what you divided by, and the answer you got are factors of what you started with. So that's kind of neat. And we'll use that more in the next unit. All right, that's it for Unit 4. We'll review soon. Thanks for watching.